Do I hear a
Yes, you do.
motion to accept the minutes?
Accept the minutes, yes.
The 14th. Motion seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, we got the monthly operating report summary for December 2022.
So any questions, let me know. Just flip the screen out. All right, so we averaged 3.3 million gallons a day, a daily max of almost 5 million. Removal efficiencies were 97 and 98%. We were 34 pounds under the nitrogen permit and averaged 20.2% on solids. Any questions?
At least one good rainstorm there, right?
We did. We were actually doing about I think about 7 million during the day, but the day averaged out to about 5. But we did get some flow because we had some melt then too when everything was kind of thawing. But
Yeah, we had the snowstorm plus
yeah.
plus
rain
after that.
So yeah, we got up right around 7 million, I think it was that day, but nothing too much.
Didn't break a sweat
No, it wasn't bad.
out of California.
No,
Oh, that's terrible.
they were getting bombed out there.
It's terrible.
Oh, they need the money. Yeah, not that much, not that soon.
They need like a gradual rain.
Yeah, but they're not keeping it. Yeah, that's the problem.
One of the things I heard today which makes a lot of sense, but of course, some, the environmentalists or whatever were saying, instead of trying to confine it with levees, let it flood. And then unfortunately, once they let it flood like that, then they're gonna never allow any kind of development,
Yeah.
in that land. But interesting dilemma. Okay, then we got the Director of Public Works Project Engineer Report, current report dated December 2022.
Let's see. All right, so private sewer connections, Orchard Heights, this is within the West Hartford side. Permit agreement was completed with MDC, and the town of Farmington amended the sewer permit agreement with MDC. The mainline connection was made. Sewer and pump station construction repairs. We installed a new block heater at the Tunxus pump station. We also pulled one. We had some debris in it. It's running normal now. We finished up some landscaping at Batterson Park. Actually, when we got some of the rain, we just added a swale in the back with some gravel. So we had a pump in there that we left from the upgrade that we were basically just pumping 2-inch out to the stream. But this is just allowing it to drain naturally. So it's working pretty well. Centerbrook, Hyde, and Patrick flood. We're all running under generator power on the 23rd. We had that wind and rain storm right before Christmas. They ran without any incident and power came on in the afternoon. Devonwood and West Farms, we installed new garage door seals at both stations, and louvers were shut for the winter. Pump station upgrades and collection system. We jetted Bridgehampton Crossing, Plainville Avenue, and Pinnacle Ridge. In the month of December, we vacuumed the flow meter manhole in Plainville Avenue, and we cleaned everything out. Basically, the manhole had basically gotten surcharged. We saw it when we were checking in Tunxus, and then we'd gone out there once in November. We went back out there, and it was the flow meter actually came off the cable and got pulled into the pipe again. So we ended up fixing it, mounted it again, and cleaned everything out, and then we let Plainville know again.
So is that ours or theirs?
It's on our side, but that was the development, like half was on theirs and half was on ours. I guess they don't use that flow meter anymore. They're doing EDUs for the homes, but it was still in the manhole, and I guess it was their property at the time because this is going back years. So we mounted everything back. We shouldn't have any issues, and the superintendent knows in Plainville, so they're kind of going to stay on top of it. We continue to use the camera and look for problem areas in sewer and storm drains. In the month of December, we used the camera to inspect Old Village and Copper Mine. We continued to clear the Pinnacle right away. There wasn't much there, but we're just trying to keep it clean. Bridgehampton right away is also being worked on through the winter. Again, it's not, you can drive through most of it. There's just some areas where it's kind of marshy. We're just trying to clean it up before everything freezes. We work with Highway cleaning out storm drains and using the sewer camera. Repairs and maintenance at the plant. we installed a new sample sink in the primary basement. So now we can use those sample lines for waste readings in addition to the recycle readings. Exercise increase the effluent slide gate, which are for the effluent pumps if we have to use them for high flows. Change oil and grease both waste pumps. Perform maintenance on all the odor control units before the winter. We're almost done with the UVs now, but we started the end of December pulling them. We inspect the bulbs, replace them if needed, change the hydraulic lines, fluids, everything. We also had a fault on the anoxic mixer and the aeration tank. It was an over temp alarm, but it was actually, there's a damaged wire. It must have gotten pinched at some point. So we pulled new wires and put the mixer back online. And then the final clarifier spray line, we think when it was like cold, one of the actual heat cables shut off. So it might have cracked one of the valves. So we just took it apart this week. We're going to put a new O-ring in it and basically probably reinstall it and see if that was the only thing that cracked. Under the nitrogen permit I discussed before by 34 pounds and keep using the tank. It's been working good. Plans and reviews, 25 lot cluster subdivision, and the plan proposes to connect the existing sewer line to the main line at Maria Road.
Yeah, but that's a litigation. Then.
Yeah, that's held up.
Okay. Let's see, we've got sewer permits.
Yep, Fenwick Drive, repair of an existing lateral. Willowbrook, fee was collected with a building permit. Robin Road, another repair of an existing lateral. 138, 125 Willowbrook, fees were collected, and same at Tanbark Trail.
All right. And then we've got our budget expenditure and review for 2023-24. You were talking earlier, so the big jump, obviously, energy. What were some of the other?
It's pretty much energy and hauling. Between the two, we went up about $300,000. We were at, I think it was 13.7 kilowatt. Now we're at almost 24 to 26. So we're assuming about 400 to 600,000 on electric. And the hauling, we just increased that as well because fuel costs and everything is still high. The disposal costs are high also. So we're estimating, but it's going to be pretty close to what we're looking at. And also the electricity at the pump stations, because when I first did this out, I'm like, okay, we could probably do a little less percent, but we added another $70,000 for electricity at the pump stations because that's also going up. So that was another 70,000 too.
Yeah.
And before everybody got here, I was going over some of the savings we had this year. So kind of confusing because it's just my ongoing chart, but the left side is all our invoices for chemicals we use at the plant. So you can see like 2017 through 22, we averaged, or through 21, I'm sorry, we averaged 57,000 in chemicals and 47,000 in nitrogen credits. So once we put that fermentation tank online, we no longer were using those costs. So we saved an average of 105,000 if you average each year without the tank online, and approximately 35,000 in OT for the dewatering that we put the new pumps in. So it's good we saved 140, but when we're adding 350, kind of offsets it, unfortunately. But
so remind me here, do we go out for bids on the trucking and disposal?
yeah, so what I did was, so for the trucking last year was a big increase. We went from $78 per ton to 112, which is substantial. So we added something similar, a little less. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, but it is going to be a little bit more. So we added a little bit extra for that. So we went from the 325 to the 410, and anticipating it might come in a little lower, but we're conservative on this. The same with electricity, we went up to 600. There's a chance it could be lower, but we'd rather be safe than sorry.
Okay, and the other one is the MBC and monastery. Fees here, what was the,
That one I gotta look at. I think those were all like the professional fees for some of the stuff. I'll double check that though. Let me just make a note of that.
and then.
Cause I know I had an email on that and they increased it too. I gotta look at specifically everything that it covers though.
Yeah, but they went up, remember, they had the large increase in,
Yep.
in the hearings and everything there.
And all our solids, obviously, well, we're going to NBC in Hartford, but everything there is through the roof as well.
So we did go way down on the pump station improvements.
So when we added this all up, it was almost an extra like $400,000 to $500,000 that we had to cut back. Overall, like the total expenditures, I was just in Munis today, there's still quite a bit of money in here throughout the years we have in savings. So we went down in it a little bit. Basically, the only pump station thing we're planning on right now is West Farms down the road, which we're looking 2 to 3 years out. We're trying to do that one at Orchard and Fairview area, just to take the head off those pumps so we don't have any cavitation and kind of extend the life of it. We are doing the generators at Harlan and Allstate, but that we have a separate category for the pump station generators. So those will be taken care of. And then other than Oakland, we're going to do an INC panel, and Allstate, we're going to do an INC panel. But at that point, all the motors, the pumps, the generators are probably under 20 years. And everything else has been upgraded on SCADA. So barring a catastrophic thing, we should be covered there for a while.
Who's this Metabosset district,
Cromwell off of Route 9.
Cromwell?
Yeah, you know, when you go right before the Portland Bridge on the right,
Yeah,
they're Matabasset.
That's a big plant that's been there forever, right on Route 9.
Yeah, they do about
So
20,
what are we doing with them?
25, 30.
yeah,
Some
what
of
are we doing?
some of the New Britain water is coming here. Some also goes there, but I have to ask Russ that question.
I've seen it there before, but. like-
Yeah, and I have too.
Uh,
Like Plainville, we pay yearly.
And that's aquarium.
Yeah, Matabasset, like I said, I see once a year. I have to double check though.
Mark, what are those fees for, like MDC and Monastery and Kemble?
That's what I'm gonna check those two. Cause I know they're increasing them.
Yeah, because MDC went, well, what would the fee be though? Like, what is it for?
It's not hauling, it's not any of that because that's included in disposal fees.
Isn't it just, in other words, it's, Farmington property that go into MDC property, and it just the.
I believe so.
It's the
They're not paying another sewage
Yeah,
system to deal with it?
that's.
I'll double check, cause a lot like these strictly usually go through finance, other than Plainville, like I'll get the bills. These go through finance. A lot of the times I don't see these two, other than I know we're getting the percentage increase, but I'll double check tomorrow with Joe, just to ask.
So if I'm reading this correctly. It falls under the 5.5% increase.
That was what we were looking at. We put in like a 0, a 1, and a 7.5. 5.5 was the closest we could get it. So it's about, that's $17, I think. 320, yeah, 1766. Which is still considerably lower than what, it's a lot lower than a lot of towns around us. There is some play in here. When I updated the totals from last year's in Munis, for some of the materials and supplies, some of the actual equipment and repairs for what I'm budgeting and what we're spending, there is some room that we can move on. But the hard thing is when you're going up, 200 on electric and 100 on hauling, if you take out 15 here, 20 there, it just doesn't make that big of a difference.
Well, we've certainly been good about 0 increases.
Yeah.
For quite a few years. I mean, obviously you got more work to do on this thing, but I would think that we maybe somehow at least get down to five, an even 5 versus
Yeah.
5.5, but.
Yeah, and I think that's possible. Because like even. Like I'm looking at it now, like some of the actual, let's see. Polymer, I could probably cut some off on some of the actual like the tech equipment. Because we're done doing a lot of the stuff from the upgrade that we were tweaking.
They squeeze it some more.
You know, even building repair and maintenance. We always budgeted 20 to 30 because you don't know what's gonna happen, but that's separate from pumps and motors, and I mean, you can see in 20 and 21, we spent $2,600 and 3,500, and we budgeted 25. So you could probably pull 15 out of there. I could pull 10,000 out of nitrogen credits if we're not spending any. I left 10,000 in there, but obviously we're not spending it. So that would be 30,000. There is some room.
You know, just like everything else, I mean, things aren't going down, they're going up.
No.
Right.
And that was why I did that. I had that quick spreadsheet I just do for my own benefit. And like I told Russ and Joe, it's like you save the substantial amount of money. It's just when you have this much income and it's a lot. But the two big ones are electric and hauling and fuel, basically. Those are your two, fuel and electric.
Are there any thoughts on what might be done to help offset the electricity increases?
We were talking, I mean, possibly we could look into, solar. That might be an option because there's a lot of land here. I talked to Eversource about a small hydro turbine here. So they're telling me they need 4 to 6 feet of drop to have a small one, which on our UV building, it comes off both channels and it drops. We haven't got an actual like large measurement to see if it's 48 inches. If it is, they could put one in. Basically, they put a pipe in, it flows through, spins a turbine, and you can get something out of it, right? But a lot of it's depending on if you're doing 20 MGD, we'd probably make it power, right? But if we're doing 1.7 in the summer, it might not make as much.
Not move it.
No, and they do these things for no cost to the town, but we have to see if we would even qualify with what we have in there. So that's something, the solar something to look at too. So there are some. I don't know how much it'll offset though.
Yeah, because those things aren't free to put in, right?
No. And like I said, with these things, I tell everybody, you guys know what the bill is, but there's a lot of juice flowing through here. So you'd probably need half of those fields with solar to power the plant, but it would definitely offset at least maybe one of the smaller buildings. I don't think you would do the UV or the blowers, but you might be able to do, RAS pumps, maybe a final clarifier drive or something.
Now, at one point, we were talking about, making our own power with a generator. I don't know how that's stacked up.
I don't know. There was, there was a talk about they're doing like the trash burning one too. The only problem, I personally know what that is. CTDEP and EPA hasn't done emission requirements yet, and they don't have the permits for emission, which is not going to happen in 2 years. I mean, you're probably looking at 3 to 5 for that. So I think because when I talked to Russ about it, the system for that, you're probably at least 5 years out. But they could burn solids, they could burn trash, pretty much everything. I think they operate at like 2,800, 2,600 degrees. So that would be one too, but that's down the road.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look good, but I mean, it is what it is.
That's the phrase I used. And like I said, if anybody had questions or concerns, I'd show them the chart. We're saving money. It's the outside ones that are costing more.
Yeah, I don't even, it doesn't do us good to talk about the how much we're saving. It's just it's the increase which is out of our control.
That's it.
So we don't want to make excuses for it. It's just that's what everybody's faced with. Everybody in their house is opening up.
Everybody sees it,
Yeah.
And that's my point. Like if anybody, because in the past I've had people like, why is it so much money? It's like it's not us. It's unfortunately it's out of our control. So, and I'm sure everybody sees that at home, like you said too.
That's it, about why is it so much money for our
Yeah, I haven't had it here. I've had it in private sector. I've gotten that question before. But I mean, our fee here is even at 5.5 for 338.
Mhm.
I mean, I think Avon's 5 something, isn't it? 520 or something.
Well, everybody wanted to be on the
Yeah.
Farmington rates that lives in Avon.
Yeah, so I know in the 300s, especially low 300s is low for most of these, so we're still doing pretty good.
So in one, I don't wanna call it a positive thing here, but it's not like it's a fixed cost. I mean, so year to year,
Yeah,
if the
goes
the energy
down.
goes down.
Come back down.
I mean, so it's
Yep.
not like it's a reoccurring.
And I think if they do keep the costs where they are, they're gonna have a lot of complaints or bigger problems.
Right.
But
Now,
And so you are gonna go out to bid for the trucking costs, or that you're not?
we are gonna go out to bid. I just know from experience, like when I worked for Veolia, we used HI Stone. They're easily 30% cheaper than any other hauler. Just because of their volume. They pretty much do, I'd say at least half the plants in the state. So when we went out to bid last time, I think the next hauler from them was probably 150K more. So it's like we go out, but
there's not a lot of competition.
no, and the ones that, I mean, we had bids that were 600K last year. And HI Stone came in like 200 lower than some, so it was like.
Yeah.
And they're pretty good too, so.
So I don't know how it works on a commercial, but in my attempt here to keep our energy costs at home down, I switched to a different supplier.
Yep.
And I know Eversource is, you know, all of a sudden is starting to pay attention because a lot of people
Are switching.
over. Now, is something like that an option for us?
I can look into it. This would be the first time I've done that before. The only thing I've heard about that, and this is on like a small level, not like a plant size scale, was if you switch and something happens and their rate increases, if you tried to go back, they could basically kind of give you a hard time on it. Or say you have a 2-year agreement or a 3-year agreement, and I don't know what the specifics, something this,
Typically locked in for 3 years.
yeah, what this size would be for it.
Those alternate suppliers are notorious for raising your rates and not telling you. Unless you keep an eye on it, all of a sudden you will lose money real quickly.
Yeah.
It's not worth switching from Eversource. That's what I've heard.
And I know the bills here too, like, unless you look at the electric like we do here, the average person looks at the bill and you can't even understand what the hell it says. I mean, it says 0.07 for kilowatts, but we pay almost 14 because they have the service. It's so they don't make it easy. But yeah, I'll try to get down to 5% for next meeting. And
Well, with the trucking, you know, some of the trucking companies still have a fuel surcharge on, some of them have taken it off.
yeah,
And it's like, why do you still have the fuel surcharge on when?
yeah,
You know, everything came back down.
Yep.
And
I think as of January 1st, didn't they, a new tax on the trucking?
on the trucking, yes,
Yeah.
correct,
Phasing back in now.
correct, on the miles. Well, no, that's the actual tax bill. But no, now they have a tax on the actual trucks.
Yeah.
Based on
So-
mileage.
So we're gonna end up, like everybody else, all the customers are gonna pay for the tax,
Oh, it
Yeah.
gets passed back to the consumer,
especially something like that.
right?
well, so 2% is going to be, let's just say, $85,000. So we're looking at like 20K, 21K to get to 5%. Maybe we could even do 4.75 or something. Find like 30, 40K.
All right, that-
We gotta all take some home with us after each meeting.
Yeah, no, we can make that work.
You there?
Well, it's only like $10 a household, and not
No, and like I said, we're so low compared to other towns, and whenever I put this together, like this is so conservative anyways, we come in higher for the projection anyhow, so we're safe, but yeah, we can go down.
Yeah, 4.75. Sounds like a winner.
It sounds nicer.
Mhm.
Yeah, when we first did this and the capital was the same, because we try to keep that the same for budgets, right? It's like 11%. I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work right now. So
Gotta go.
Yeah.
All right, so who else do you work with? Is it Joe Swecky or who else works with you?
Russ and I, and then we go to Joe basically, because we had 3 meetings on capital, which we wanted to keep, but we had to pull some from it just because of the electric and fuel. And then we go to Joe and it's kind of yay or nay, and then we tweak it from there. So
So it doesn't go to the council until we're finalized with it.
yeah, so this won't go, so I try to have this for January, so I get a general idea of where we want to be. I'll have this done by next week, if it's at 4-7 or whatever. I'll go to Joe, we'll finalize it. Next meeting, we'll get it in the Hartford Current for February, and then you'll sign it in March, and then we're good. So.
We're at any other business? Nope. Hearing none, do I hear a motion adjourned?
So moved.
Moved in second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.